Hi there, hope all's well. Craig Brown here, maximizing performance. Where thank you for joining this course. We are talking about visualization. Uh, Today we're talking about pre-session visualization. If you've seen a few of my other videos already on this subject, then you'll probably be pretty well versed on what visualization is and how it can help. If you actually watched this course first, then I'm going to give you a brief, really quick description, and then we'll get right into the video. All right, so to begin with, the uses of visualization. So it's helpful for improving multiple different aspects of performance. I'm going to talk about several ways it can be used for combat sports, particularly in Taekwondo, but please be well, just know that it can be applied to many different sports and performance areas too. If it happens that you're not a Taekwondo athlete, or a combat athlete, should I say, to say maybe you do karate, perhaps you do just a completely different sport whatsoever, please let me know because I can make some adaptations and in the way that we do this course. I can provide some ways in which you can make it can be applied to your sport as well. So just let me know. All right, so some of the areas that visualization can be used in. One is a technique improvement and perfection. Like especially for Taekwondo, it could be a spin hook, it could be a back kick, uh, just for a particular technique. You could also use it for like a pre-session prep to make sure you get the most out of your session, um, and don't get bogged down. You can be really intentional about what you want to achieve. And also for competition, you can use it for planning the day, planning the night before, planning the taper week leading up to the big events. So it can be used in, those are just some of the ways it can be used to really improve those aspects of your game as well. So like I said, this video, we're talking about pre-session prep. We're kind of priming ourselves to really get the most out of our session. This is good for tough sessions like sparring, where it could go multiple different ways. It's also really good for like training camps. You know, you really want to get the most out of your training camp day to day. This is a way of being intentional and making sure you can do that. It also allows you to focus on individual goals in the midst of goals that are set by coaches for a team. Yes, like we compete as individuals, but we train as a team most of the time. You know, so how can you make sure you hit and create and hit individual targets in the midst of a group session? Well, this can help you do that. All right, so now we're going to talk about the process. Um, so first thing you want to think about is you want to go over the goals for your session. You could even go over the goals for the week if the plan is available to you. But I would say that if you're going to do the plan for the week, I'd say do it loosely because from day to day, depending on how your sessions go and how your reflection goes for this exercise, you may maybe stick with similar goals from the day before, or you may even advance your goals more aggressively because you progressed, or you performed better than what you thought you would. Pardon me. I would say make sure to plan to visualize yourself performing the drills you will be doing in training when you're doing this visualization prior to your session. So you want to really try and make it specific because then it's like you're doing repetition, you're repeating it, and you know repetition is one of the best ways to learn, the most effective ways to learn. And when you are visualizing, make sure to picture yourself performing the drills in the most optimal way possible. This is very, very important because the way you actually visualize them is going to have an impact on the way you perform them. Now, I know sometimes if it's a technique that you're trying to improve and you've had bad success with it in the past, you may find yourself automatically falling back into like um, picturing it, visualizing it the way you've done it in the past when it wasn't as effectively done. But what you can do, it's really important that you overcome that. That's number one. But what you can do if you're struggling with that is maybe visualize someone else that you've seen do it really, really well. And have that picture in your mind of how well they've done it, and then put yourself in their shoes. You could even ask a teammate or a friend to actually perform that technique for you and watch carefully, and then really try and keep that image in your mind and then you want to replay it in your mind and then put yourself in their shoes and you do it the same way they do it. Visualize yourself doing it the way they do it. So that's a way of overcoming that kind of PTSD of, a bad result with a technique previously. All right. So if you're thinking visualization is a bit tough, it's not something that you're used to, this is one of the first videos you've seen, you can refer to Visualization 101, the video I did before this, whether it's just to kind of revisit and remind yourself of how a way of doing it, or whether it's just to get an idea of how to do it to begin with. But what I would say is in this video, we are going to do it a little bit differently in regards to process. So you might not need the Visualization 101 process anyway. So in this video, I would say, or so try to say for this course and this exercise we're going to do in the end, plan to spend at least 5 to 10 minutes doing the exercise. And while you're doing it, you really want to be counting your breaths. You want to count as you breathe in and as you breathe out. The odd numbers will be breathing in and the even numbers will be breathing out. So you'd say 1, breathe in, 2, breathe out, 3, breathe in, 4, breathe out, and you do that to 10 and you start again. Now this is really important because you kind of have this kind of bilateral awareness going on, whereas you're aware of your counting, but you're also aware of the actual thing you're visualizing. This is good because it allows you to separate yourself from what you're doing and view it from the outside. And this is really helpful when you're like getting used to being able to have that dual focus going on. It's good when you're in a competition or when something goes wrong, or something happens and you're able to separate yourself from it and you don't allow it to emotionally impact you as much as it could, as if you're just completely engulfed in it and you can't separate yourself from it. So it's really good practice to count at the same time as doing it. And so while you're doing it, I want you to think about how you want the session to go and how it would look and feel if you achieved all your goals for that session. That's a general way of thinking about it. And so what I also want you to think about is we're going to set performance goals, not outcome goals. And when I say outcome goals, I mean, I don't want you to focus on results. I want you to focus on performance. So your outcome goals will not be results orientated, they will be performance orientated. Because if you're too attached to results, then that can be an emotional roller coaster. And what I would say even with this is don't attach yourself in this session according to whatever goals you set. Yes, you want to hit the mark, but you can still take positives from a session even if you don't hit the mark for your performance outcome goals. And lastly on this, I'd say be humble and while realistic and challenge yourself. You don't want to set really, really high goals that are really hard for you to meet. So you compromise yourself so much, you put so much pressure on yourself and you don't meet them. And then it's like, oh, you feel low. Or maybe you do meet them, but it could have been a fluke. So you might meet them and then the next session, you don't get anywhere near them, So we're really trying to you're trying to build consistent progress, which you can hold on to, which you can consistently do and perform. So I'd say be humble and realistic, while challenging yourself. You don't want to set, even on the flip side, you don't want to set really low goals because then you're not going to improve as fast as you could. And that's where day to day you can see if you're setting goals that are a little bit too low or they're too high. So it's something that you'll get better at the more you do, engaging where your goals should be at and where you should be aiming for. All right, so I want to be practical about this. I want to give you some stuff to use. I wanted to give you something that you could take away and it could help you plan it, put it into practice and reflect on it. Because not only is the planning of it important and the visualization important and the session important, but even more important is the reflection afterwards, because that allows you to build on it. And then the next day or the next time you've got something to build on, especially if you're in a training camp and you're there day to day. You want to maximize what you can get out of that training camp. So if you can do this for each day, then you can be consistently getting better and correcting your mistakes day after day after day. All right, so this is just a template that I've created, a worksheet for you guys. It's a pre-session visualization plan. So first of all, you want to put a session goal in. Then you want to choose the drill that you're going to focus on, and the target you want to achieve in that drill. Now, I do have other worksheets and templates where you can put more than one drill in the sheet, but just for this example, I'm going to just use one. And so once you've chosen the drill and the target, the outcome part of it, you're going to leave until after you finish the session. But the strategy part you will do now, because the strategy part is going to lead your visualization practice. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to go into all of these things right now. I'm actually going to take you through an example that I filled in and used, just so you can see how the processes of doing this and going through this method. So for my training session, I had a goal that was sparring, and we were keeping we were trying to keep points, and we were also trying to come from behind. So we were doing strategy drills in regards to, working with the electronic hogos and trying to keep points and come from behind. So one of the drills I was going to focus on was, I knew I was going to be doing 3 rounds of being 6 points up, and my intention was to keep the lead. So my target was to keep 2 clean sheets. That means no one touches me for 2 of those rounds. That was my target. And the strategy was how I was going to implement that. Well, I was going to focus on being first in my front leg. I was going to manage a different plan and aim to manage a distance effectively, and also to stay composed and keep it simple. So that was my strategy in how I was going to try and achieve the target of keeping 2 clean sheets. So what I did is I went before the session. Those are my prompts in regards to my meditation. So this is a good opportunity for you to go back into Visualization 101 and look at the process of what we do when it comes to visualization. So you can actually pencil these 3, or whatever your 3 targets are, or focus targets, should I say, are. Pencil those into your visualization practice and do your visualization exercise, for this training. Okay, so after the session, my outcome was, I kept a clean sheet, 1 clean sheet. I kept a clean sheet once, but I managed to win all 3 rounds. So I had some pros, some pluses, and some minuses. I had some good parts, some bad parts that I can take away from that. So what went well, because I've already done the strategy part, is that I was able to be first in my front leg most of the time. So that was a big plus. I achieved, for the most part, my first target in my strategy. My opponents got frustrated and found it hard for me to read, which is also great. That meant my distance management was pretty good. And I discovered a clever way to make it awkward for opponents to score on me. So that's another good thing, because that's a long-term trick that I have up my sleeve that I can use going forward in the future. Whenever you have those moments, those light bulb moments where you learn a skill which gives you an edge, you have to hold on to them. And that's another reason why this exercise is really, really powerful. And then you have the what I could have done better. Well, I noticed I got a bit sloppy towards the end of the last 2 rounds. It took me longer than usual to adapt to the speed of my last opponent. That was one. And the last one was, I could have used my hands more with my front leg to make my defense stronger. That probably would have meant that maybe I would have been even better in my last 2 rounds of trying to keep a clean sheet. So next time, my focus will be, when visualizing, focusing on staying consistently composed for the whole duration. That also would help me with the sloppiness in the last 2 rounds, and to visualize different looks so I can adapt quicker to the different movement patterns and styles. So when I'm visualizing, I'm going to be thinking about the different styles that I can adapt to, and also being more active with my hands. So these 3 things, the next time I will, are things that I'm not only going to put into practice in my training, but I'm also going to put into practice in my visualization to try and prime myself to do that better. So what I'd say is that, just reflecting on this right now, I'd say what's important to think about is, yes, the training part of it is important. Yes, the planning, using the sheet to plan is important. And of course, the visualization is important. But what I think is even more important is the reflection, because now you're building for your next session. And what you find is that when you're in a training camp, or you're living in an academy environment, or you're training full time, I mean, you don't always get the time to reflect. You might go for a whole week or 2 weeks of training and never get to do a reflection exercise like this, which allows you to really take stock of what you're doing, how well you did, and what you can do for next time. I mean, when you're in a competition, you want to be able to adapt like this from round to round, from fight to fight. If you're losing one round, you want to be able to change. Okay, what can I do? What went well? What can I have done better? Okay, next round or next time, I'm going to do this. So this is kind of practicing that, being able to adapt. So here we're trying to do it from day to day, from session to session, but it also helps you get into the habit of doing it from match to match when you're competing. So I'd say that, especially if you're in a training camp or you're getting ready for a big event, doing this day to day can be very, very important, because when you reflect on how you did on one day, you can make quick adaptations and changes for the next day, and you can do that day after day and really see a change and improvement in your performance in a short space of time. All right, so that's it. There is a copy of the worksheet attached to this course, so please print it out, fill it out, use it, see and try the visualization. And if you need to, like I said, if you need to refresh how to do it, go look at that visualization 101 video. That will tell you exactly how to do it. And then, do it prior to your session. Do your session, do the reflection, do the comparison from what your targets were to the outcome, and let me know how it goes. Let me know how it goes. Please send me some comments. If you have questions, please feel free to share them with me as well. I'm really interested to know how this worked for you, and to see how I can improve, how I can help you in the future. So let me know how it goes. Great working with you. Craig Brown, Maximizing Performance. Peace.